When you first went into writing, was there some sort of resistance from Hollywood because you would have known so many secrets, dark little secrets? Because you would have known the naughty bits.
I didn't get resistance that much from celebrity, but I did from an editor. When I wrote the Jayne Mansfield book, he says, "Lee's just a press secretary. What does he know? I should be writing that book." Oh, in the writing field, there's a lot of jealousy, more so than I think there is even in the acting world. People talk about the jealousy and backbiting in acting. Writing has its share of it.
You've written a great number of books, been associated with the literary field. What makes a good book?
Some books are manufactured to be bestsellers, but a good book, I can give you a good example, is James Robert Waller's The Bridges of Madison County. That was a nothing book. He didn't even want to do anything with it. His agent said, well, let's send it out, just see what happens. Totally sold on word of mouth. Now that wasn't built up. Big stars, big names, big issues, big scandals always sell books. Oh, if everybody gave O.J. Simpson 10% of what they made off of him in books, he'd be able to pay Goldman all he owed him.
All the subjects you've written about, do you have any favourites? And that's really putting you into a spot here. Because
My agent just asked me that this morning, Scotty over here. He said, what is your favorite? I said, it's like asking who's your favorite child.
That's right.
But I do, there's two that well, Mansfield, of course, is very personal, and it's a very subjective book for me. But, of course, the Bob Hope book is by far, I think, my best. It sold the best, made the most money. But I did a biography of Sonja Henie with her brother, which I thought was a very good book.
If somebody wanted to become a writer of some note or to be infamous, some of the first steps they should take?
Well, the 3 R's of writing are read, write, and rewrite. I think you have to be a good reader. If you don't read, then you don't know what the market is. There are lots of people that have good stories, but good writers, how to take that story and put it down. There's a million, like they say, there's a million stories in the big city. But I believe a good writer should be in a good read and critique writing group. Not one of these groups where everybody gets there and reads and they say, oh, isn't that lovely? I love you, pat on the back. No, good, tough read and critique writing group, because that helps you fashion what you're doing, your structure. See, writing's more than just writing. It's a craft, it's a business, and it's sales. You have to sell yourself that I can sell this book, and then it goes from there to the agent, to the acquisition editors, to the marketing department, to the publishing house, and then they have to sell it to the bookstores who have to sell it to the public. So it's all about sales. And when a writer says, "Oh, I'm an artist, I'm not a salesman," then they're not being sold.
But should you write it primarily from the heart or from?
Oh, you've got to feel what you're doing. When I do a biography, I get inside the person's head, and I have clashes when I work with somebody on an autobiography. Because there are things I say, this won't work, but I want that in there. And then you somehow or other have to come to give a little, take a little, and you hope it works.
What about your current projects? What's Ray Strait doing or Rusty doing now?
I have just finished, and I'm editing a book that took me about 7 or 8 years working with Herb Jeffries, the great jazz singer, who sang with Duke Ellington and Earl Hines. It's called The Color of Love. We don't have a publisher yet. We're editing right now.
But what a great title.
Oh yeah, The Color of Love. And this is a man who was white and had to be black in order to get a job singing. He was shade too dark for the white bands and too light for the colored bands. And give you a little example of what he told me. He was playing in Durham, North Carolina, in a tobacco warehouse. And he came off the bandstand. He was singing with Earl Hines in those days. He came off the bandstand, and the little pudgy deputy sheriff, red-cheeked, redneck, came up to him and said, he was headed to the back to get a Coke. He says, "What you doing up there, them boys?" Those guys, them boys, he said, "We don't," I said, "Where are you from?" He says, "I'm from Detroit." He said, "We don't allow white folks to mess with niggers down here." Herb said, "Well, I'm one of them. I'm mulatto from Louisiana." The guy said, "Oh, that's different." He said, "You look white." I said, "I hear that all the time." He said, "Well, you get your black butt back there with the rest of your kind. We don't allow blacks to mingle with the whites." So it was a reverse change. And it changed his life. That's why he had a real crusade against bigotry and prejudice. I love the man. He's my mentor. He's going to be 96 in September, and he still does concerts.
And you love singing.
Well, I sang with big bands for about 8 years. That has always been my first love.
You got a great voice. I heard you before.
If I had ever learned to play the piano, I would have never been a writer. I would be today sitting in some piano bar, belting out the songs of the 40s, the great tunesmiths from Tin Pan Alley. And that's what I would have been doing, and I would have been happy.
Hello, Dolly. Because you sang a part of it before. Give us a little bit of the Hello, Dolly.
Oh,
Come on.
I can give you a better one than that.
Okay.
The autumn leaves of red and gold fall by my window, la da da da.
Those damn lyrics, we forget them sometimes.
Oh, well, if you don't, listen, writing,
I cheated. I got you on the
singing
spot.
is like everything else. If you don't practice all the time, you take a bowler or a baseball player, you take it. If they don't do it all the time, you get a little rough around the edges.
Okay, you've done so much in your life. Imagine Jayne Mansfield, the whole group had come back for 5 minutes, and we would ask them in one word how they would describe Ray Strait. What would they say?
Nice friend who turned into a rat fink, I suspect.
No, that's a description. We want one word.
Oh, I think friend.
Friend. And how would you describe Ray Strait? One word.
Giving.
Ray, thank you for giving us your time today.
Thank you very much
sir.
for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Known as the Literary Lion, Peter Miller is respected as an author and literary agent. He's next on Who's Who Speaks.